what I'm going to attempt to do is explain how Hindus view the universe. We're going to just take it one step at a time. And the way Hindus view this universe is through this concept called Brahman. So the way it works is we all live in this universe. And the universe consists of, if we had to break this universe down into something, so we can sort of try, how do we understand this universe right here? So if we're going to try to understand this, we have to break it down into two main aspects. There's the world that we live in. So the world, or I guess our world that we live in right now. And then the other aspect of the universe is this outer outer supernatural world that, we don't really quite understand. Outer supernatural world, or outer reality. And this outer supernatural world, is Brahman. This is what Hindus define as Brahman. So this is equal to Brahman. Brahman. And this is a very important concept because, people always think, oh, Hindus, they have a lot of gods and they're also hard to understand and none of it makes sense. But the fundamental concept really is that, yes, we have a lot of gods, but all these gods are later on used to explain this sort of outer supernatural world of Brahman. So, actually there are some Hindus who think that Brahman is really this sort of energy or supernatural cosmic force that is kind of, it's not really a god, but it is this sort of force that we are unable to understand. However, if we do although we don't really quite understand Brahman, what we do know about Brahman is that it has three main characteristics to it. And these three main characteristics are that it is infinite, undivided, and unchanging. So again, we have a universe. We're going to break it down into the world we live in and this, outer supernatural force, this sort of energy or supernatural cosmic force, Brahman, that we don't quite understand. But if we did have to break it down into three main concepts or three main facts that we do know about Brahman, is that it is infinite, meaning it's everywhere. Again, it's supernatural, sort of this cosmic infinite force. It's undivided. So what this means is there's no race. It's not like Brahman is just Indian or it's any other race. It's gender neutral, so it's not male or female. It's just this sort of hard to understand abstract concept, this sort of abstract energy. And I think this is really the best way you can think of it. And lastly, that it is unchanging. So it's just kind of there. It's just this infinite, undivided, and unchanging energy. And I really want to stress these three concepts because this is kind of like the foundation of Hinduism. What many principles are based off is going to be off this concept Brahman. So it's a very confusing topic that many people just don't understand, and that's the way it should be, sort of. That it is not something that is supposed to be really understood. That is this abstract thing, but what we do know, it's infinite, it's undivided, and unchanging. So this is how we can describe Brahman. And if we go back to the world that we live in up here, how do we describe this world? Well, this world that we live in is the exact opposite of Brahman. So this world that we live in is finite, it's divided, and it's changing. So this is sort of the opposite of what Brahman is. Finite, we see that in many ways. Like there's a cycle of life. We live and then we die. So there's a finite existence, finite sort of cycle of life that we see. We're divided by race, gender, many other characteristics, and it's always changing. So this is sort of the two sort of opposing forces, or the two opposing characteristics that make up the universe. And now we get to sort of the very main and broad overarching point of Hinduism. So I'm going to put a little star here. So I don't want to say this is like the number one point of Hinduism, but this is how about we put very, very, very important, sort of, in a way, the main point of Hinduism. And this main point of Hinduism is this: the world, so this finite, divided, and changing, this changing world is a misperception. Of that one reality. This is it. This is what Hindus are stressing. All the texts you read, all the God, we're going to go into it in much more detail, but this is kind of like Americans. We have our Constitution, and our main point is that I don't know, all men are created equal. This is kind of like the preamble to our religion, if that makes any sense. If not, just totally ignore what I said. And sorry, I just want to clarify, what is this one reality? This one reality is Brahman, which we just explained earlier. And this is the world, again. So we see this sort of opposing, contrasting views. The world is sort of this misperception. It's a very important term. So what we're saying is that we don't really want to see the world the way it is right now. What we want to do is look past this misperception and understand Brahman. And the way we're going to do that is, before I get into the way we do that, one question is, why is it a misperception? How come we're not able to see Brahman? And the reason we are not able to understand Brahman, at least in the beginning, is this another very important term or very important concept you'll hear in Hindu. It's called Maya. Maya is this sort of, you can think of it as a veil. And Maya is this veil that screens us from seeing Brahman. So it's kind of like, don't judge me on my drawings here, but we have the world that we live in, and then we have like this, this little curtain or this little veil, and then Brahman's on the other side. Okay? And this is Maya right here. So Maya is the reason that we're not able to see this. This is the reason right here. And let me just hold on. Before I continue, I just want to fix this. Okay. And sorry. So what I was saying was that the world, we're not able to see Brahman is because of this veil, Maya. However, it's not that this veil is permanent. This is the goal in Hinduism. So I guess this is kind of one of another very important point after that. The world is a misperception of the one reality. That the goal in Hinduism. So let's say the goal, the fundamental goal in Hinduism is to look past this veil, of Maya, and be one with Brahman. This is it. This is what you need to do to sort of achieve the enlightened state and whatnot. And so you're going to say, okay, Naman, thank you very much for explaining all this, but how exactly, first of all, Brahman is this something that we just don't understand. How exactly am I supposed to understand Brahman and be one with Brahman and look past this veil if if Brahman is this, very abstract concept that very few people understand. And the way Hindus approach that is to understand Brahman. So let's draw this again. Actually, we have sorry, not nature. We have the universe. Then we have the world and Brahman. And to understand Brahman, what Hindus do is we break this up even further. So we went from universe to world to Brahman, and we break this up even further. To understand Brahman, we have deities or gods, and this is sort of what Hinduism's known for, the millions and millions of gods that we have. And all these gods are there not to confuse us, even though that's what it ends up happening often. The reason we have these gods is we can understand Brahman, so we can sort of quantify Brahman. And another way we can do it, understand this Brahman, is through the avatars. We hear a lot of avatars are just real life human beings that came on Earth, but they were godlike, and they were here to sort of explain how humans should live. Again, I'll go into this in a lot more detail. Yoga is another way of yoga, meditation. These are all paths you can choose to understand Brahman. And this is sort of the overarching principle of how to understand Brahman. And in the future videos, I'm going to go over into way more specifics on deities, avatars, yoga, and how this all relates to Brahman. But hopefully this video gives you a sort of general idea, get your feet wet, of what really Hinduism is trying to say, and not just, do a bunch of rituals that don't quite make sense, or memorize the names of all these gods and all these stories. That's not really the point of Hinduism. All these stories or all these gods or all this complicated stuff is really meant so you can understand Brahman and sort of achieve this enlightened state.